The Steelers have some new life on offense because of a couple of fresh faces. I'm Joe Dolan, and this is the Fantasy Points Daily Lineup for Wednesday, October 5th, 2022.
It's time for the FantasyPoints.com Daily Lineup. Staying on top of the latest news and updates around the NFL. Rise and shine, folks. We're taking the field. Here's your host, FantasyPoints.com's Joe Dolan.
Starting at quarterback for the Steelers in Week 5 and for the rest of the season, presumably, is the rookie Kenny Pickett. As everyone on earth predicted, Mitch Trubisky, he proved he wasn't really the solution at quarterback, and he did so very quickly. And head coach Mike Tomlin finally pulled the plug and inserted Pittsburgh's first-round pick into the lineup in the second half in Week 4. Pickett instantly gave the offense a shot of life with his willingness to attack downfield and with 2 rushing touchdowns against the Jets. Now, Pickett's performance wasn't perfect, though, with 3 interceptions on 13 attempts. As a matter of fact, those were the only 3 incompletions he had. But one of the interceptions came on a last-second Hail Mary, and another came when Chase Claypool didn't jump up vertically in a catchable downfield jump ball situation. Pickett still averaged 9.2 yards per attempt, and he showed off his sneaky rushing potential, which will serve him well for fantasy. Pickett has mid-quarterback 2 potential with a strong cast of receivers at his disposal, but here is the problem. He does have a brutal upcoming slate of games at Buffalo, at home against Tampa, at Miami, and at Philadelphia. So 3 on the road against some top defenses. Nonetheless, Pickett's willingness to throw it downfield will be good news for George Pickens. I reserve the right to mess that up all year, by the way, who, small sample alert, was targeted on 4 of Pickett's 13 throws in Week 4. Just makes this offense better, more fun to watch. I'm glad that he's in there. Not likely to start at running back this week because of a short turnaround to Thursday night is the Colts' Jonathan Taylor, who we talked about on yesterday's program. Now, Colts head coach Frank Reich said that Taylor's ankle injury has left his status for Thursday's game against the Broncos, quote, unknown at this point, though Reich admitted the running back wouldn't be, quote, ready to go right now if the game were scheduled for Tuesday. That is according to James Boyd of The Athletic. Now, fortunately for Taylor, the game is not played on a Tuesday. Unfortunately, he was spotted on Tuesday watching Colts practice with a boot on his injured ankle, and at this point, it seems highly unlikely he'll be able to go on Thursday. Through 4 games, Taylor is the overall RB20 as the Colts have struggled to establish any sort of consistency on offense, with the line struggling in particular. So it's hard to imagine Phillip Lindsay or Deion Jackson changing that. The one interesting back here, if Taylor misses, is obviously Nyheim Hines, who is 21st among all running backs in routes run. Taylor and the Colts offense is stuck in the mud with 20 or fewer points scored in each of the first 4 weeks of the season. Taylor himself is averaging just 4.0 yards per carry after averaging 5.5 last year, and he has just 23.7 fantasy points over the last 3 weeks. That's total, not average. Starting at our other running back spot is someone who could be ready to go in Week 5. As a matter of fact, he's expected to be ready to go. The Commanders' Brian Robinson is expected to be activated off the NFI list following his August shooting, and Coach Ron Rivera said on Monday that it looks, quote, very promising that the rookie could play in Week 5 versus the Titans. This is per Matthew Paris of the Washington Times. Now, Robinson was doing drills 2 weeks ago and looked good. He will return to practice on Wednesday. The team has 21 days to put him on the active roster, but that could happen quickly per Rivera. So Robinson, if he's out there on the waiver wire, needs to be picked up now. Robinson looked poised to be the team's lead runner before the incident. And with Antonio Gibson struggling as a runner, he's averaging just 2.9 yards per carry over the last 3 weeks. It would not be a shock if the Commanders played Robinson over Gibson. The Commanders do have offensive line issues, though, and Robinson will be hard-pressed to see the field in hurry-up and passing down situations because of Gibson's ability as a receiver and J.D. McKissic's ability as a receiver. But if Robinson can make Gibson irrelevant as a runner, there's probably 15 touches a game for the rookie in this backfield. A very solid receiver himself, though, Robinson was drafted in large part due to the former college wide receiver Gibson's struggles as an interior runner, specifically the inside zone scheme. Now, Robinson should quickly represent an upgrade over Gibson on the ground, and Gibson's snaps have fallen every week from 64% in Week 1 to 41% in Week 4. In our wide receiver 1 spot, we will stick in Washington. Commanders rookie Jahan Dotson could miss, quote, a week or two with a hamstring injury picked up in week 4 against the Cowboys. That's per coach Ron Rivera. Making that all the more likely is the fact that Washington has a Sunday game this week into the Thursday game in week 6 against the Titans and then the Bears. So at this point, I would expect Dotson to miss 2 games. Now, Dotson, who is tied with Stephon Diggs for the NFL lead in touchdown receptions with 4, has been Washington's best red zone threat through 4 games. This is especially bad news because the Commanders cannot throw the ball, especially in the first half. After playing pretty well in week 1, the real Carson Wentz has arrived. The Commanders have been outscored by a 59-7 margin in the first half of their games over the last 3 weeks against the Lions, Eagles, and Cowboys. In the first half of those games, Wentz has gone 20 of 40 for 133 yards. 1 touchdown, 1 pick, and 11 sacks taken. That is 3.3 yards per attempt. Over that span, the Commanders have 6 passing first downs in the first half over the last 3 weeks, which is by far the fewest in the league. Even the Panthers, with Baker Mayfield struggling, have 11 over that span. By the way, Wentz's 40 first half pass attempts for 3.3 yards per attempt, that is insane. To put into perspective how bad that is, that's over the last 3 weeks, doesn't include week 1, by the way. To put into perspective how bad that is, 30 different running backs this year have 40 or more carries, or 30 different players, rather. 26 of those 30 average more than 3.3 yards per attempt. So there are 26, there's basically like 90+% of the runners who have 30 carries are averaging more than 3.3 yards per attempt. Of course, one of those running backs who doesn't is Antonio Gibson. The loss of Dotson is just going to further exacerbate these issues, and you wonder when Ron Rivera makes a change here. At our other wide receiver spot, we at least got some clarity on Baltimore's Rashad Bateman. The Ravens' top wideout caught just 3 passes for 17 yards in week 4 against Buffalo, while playing just 44% of the snaps. His day was punctuated by a critical 3rd down drop, and his playing time fell very soon after that. Now, Coach John Harbaugh's vague comments after the game seemed to suggest the possibility that Bateman was benched for performance reasons after the drop. I would have found that very strange, given, A, number one, the Ravens don't have any receivers, and B, the game was played in a driving rainstorm. You kind of got to give guys a little bit of a reprieve for a drop here and there. But on Monday, Harbaugh told reporters that Bateman is dealing with a, quote, mid-foot injury and is day-to-day. Here is what our Dr. Edwin Porras has to say about this. Harbaugh's words haven't historically been encouraging, so it's best to look at the data. In one small NFL study, a grade 1 sprain meant essentially no missed time. A grade 2 resulted in approximately 36 missed days, so you want the grade 1. As of today, it seems the worst case scenario would result in a similar situation to Calvin Ridley in 2020, who was down 24 days with the midfoot sprain, but only missed 1 game due to the Thursday night game and the bye week timing. The best case scenario is Bateman misses no time and recovers from this in the next week. So it's possible Bateman plays on Sunday against the Bengals, but it is a night game. So a situation must be monitored if you want to put him in a fantasy lineup. In our flex spot, we have a quarterback who will not be playing this week. Cowboys team owner Jerry Jones said Tuesday that Dak Prescott isn't able to comfortably grip footballs with his surgically repaired right thumb, suggesting the quarterback isn't on track to play in week 5 against the Rams. This is per Clarence E. Hill Jr. of the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. Now, that was further confirmed by Michael Gelkin of the Dallas Morning News, who said a source familiar with Prescott's situation said he won't play this week. The Cowboys have the luxury of being 3-0 with Cooper Rush at quarterback and are just a game out of the division lead, despite many, including me, burying them following the loss of Prescott and Tyron Smith in week 1. But going on the road to visit a reeling Los Angeles team is probably the Cowboys' biggest challenge yet in the Rush era. But putting Prescott out there when he isn't fully ready to play would be unwise, especially since the Cowboys will be at worst 3-2 following this week. It looks like Dak is aiming for week 6 against red-hot Philadelphia to make his return, but that's obviously not a guarantee given he still can't grip a football. I'm Joe Dolan, and this has been the Fantasy Points Daily Lineup. As it has been, it will air every Tuesday through Friday this NFL season, and I really hope you have been enjoying it. And if you want more content, including a lot of the stats that I reference in this program, and including Edwin Porras' injury insights, you want to go to fantasypoints.com and subscribe to whatever package you want. We are currently 25% off every package. Why? Because the season's 25% over. Isn't that interesting how that works? But on top of that, you can get 10% off using code lineup22. Any package at fantasypoints.com gives you access to our subscriber Discord, where you have a direct line to me and the rest of our staff, which is very useful for start sit questions, trade questions, and if you're into DFS and betting questions. That's part of our premium package, by the way. One thing I got to throw out there: this is not really a market that I think is super exploited yet, but our guy Justin Varnes is 24-10 in IDP betting props, individual defensive player betting props. That is a ridiculous ROI. So you want to get in and you want to tail Justin this week on his IDP props. My name's Joe. You're you. This has been the Daily Lineup, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.